All right, we're recording, everybody. As always, I am Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting. We use Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to play through and tell our story, and the awesome folks who have taken time out of their Sunday are helping me write it one episode at a time as we go. We have a new player tonight, and we'll go around and have everybody do their introductions. I won't pick on you right at first, Rachel. I'm going to go ahead and start with Sean over here. Please tell us just a touch about yourself and who you'll be playing tonight. You are muted, and it is an amazing start to the video.
Sweet. Hi, and my name is Sean. I am originally from Hawaii and I live in Louisiana, and I will be playing Shadae, the changeling shadow monk.
Nice. Jeremy, you're muted as well. Who will you be playing tonight, sir?
I will be playing a seraphim, which is a celestial construct by the name of Brahmus. It is piloted by a human soul by the name of Mirk, who was put into this construct as a extension of life.
That's well put. Now, did you need to, was there more? Go ahead, buddy, because there's going for an hour about him. He's good shit. Yes. Danny, talk to us, buddy. What's going on?
Hi, I'm Dan. I play Bastille. He's a rogue and a celestial warlock. A lot of gameplay before we were recording led to that stuff. I also play Daeon, who is kind of a cross between a Pacific Islander, kind of Eskimo type feel to him, but he's a very unique character as well.
I think he's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and Rachel, it's your turn. Go ahead and tell us just a touch about yourself and who you'll be playing tonight.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I will be playing Sylowen, the and Dirt Singer Bard.
Awesome. Okay, so a lot to cover here. There's some very interesting stuff going on when we ended the episode. We were on our way to the Crescent Cradle, a series of old world and ancient islands, pretty much the birthplace of Ulran, where they say the first mortals came from. This place is very old in its customs and ways. It's very much based after ancient Mayan and Aztec and Incan civilizations. The cluster of islands that we're headed to specifically has been the contract that we took up was through the Heart of the Beast Salvage and Supply back in New Gemdar. And the contract says that there's a large avian creature / deity called the Quetzalcoatl, which is how it's pronounced. It's not spelled that way, but that's how it's pronounced, which is our version of a roc, an ROC, those large, shitty birds that like just kill everything. It is back, and it is there to roost in the Crescent Cradle. It has a nest built on the side of a dormant volcano. And when it comes back, there is death, destruction, sacrifice. It just changes the demographic completely. No one is safe when this thing comes back to the Crescent Cradle and goes through this cycle, which happens about every 15, 20 years. The contract that we took were from concerned people from this area that don't believe that this is an actual deity like the ancient traditions would say. They believe that this is an apex predator that they are just catering to and wish for some outsiders to come help them put an end to this. We have taken the contract, for one, just for moral reasons. The second reason being is the salvage and supply part of the Heart of the Beast comes into play, and this thing could possibly have eggs there. This thing possibly has large feathers. This thing has the remains of all kinds of dinosaurs, people. Dinosaurs. This is the D&D version of Skull Island, is what this place is we're going to, and it's going to be great. I've been looking through a lot of fun shit. I hope we make it. Because they ain't little babies, man. They're big, okay? So on our way there, we're on this airship called the Lilung, and we are just coming past the southern tips of a place called Thornwood. Thornwood is a cursed forest land home to the Veiled Elves that has fallen under a deep shadow and storm, and the trees themselves have begun to change and rot and become twisted and thorn-like, thus the amazingly creative name that I came up for it. And they were attacked by a group of peryton, P-E-R-Y-T-O-N. It's pronounced differently, just do it. That's how I pronounce it. These stag slash eagle looking bloodthirsty predator avian creatures. And they descended upon the airship. The captain of the airship, Aeolus, with the help of us, everyone on board, was able to fight them off, although it was a hell of a battle. People got tore up pretty good. The ship suffered damages. And there was a couple times during the flight that he had to go down low and maneuver in dense fogged areas, and the thorn trees cut into the ship on several different dives and things. Now that they're gone, and the Bloodseeker, which was the main alpha of this group, this peryton, was destroyed. I believe, Shadae, you're the one that put the final nail in that coffin, didn't you? That was awesome. We are now in an urgent battle to try to get this airship landed somewhere safe. We have came across, you have to imagine there's almost like this large archway where this place called the Bay of Hope exists. As we were coming across Thornwood and crossed over the Bay of Hope, we had to cut back into a woodland area where we tried to lose these creatures. We're not as far as we'd like to be, and with very limited elements left in the lodestar, which is what powers the airship. Aeolus is trying to make preparations to land somewhere on the outskirts of the Crescent Cradle. Oma, and this is the last thing that Garibay caught up on, Oma is native to these lands that we just flew over. She is almost our D&D version of a Native American kind of culture called the, it begins with a W, just a minute, let me remind it here, Wasuwani, which is the name of the actual place that she's from. She fell victim to this horrible curse that seemed to plague the shadows of these peryton. As a Sylowen, your character, Rachel, being a bard, has sung songs about these strange and evil creatures. There are bardic tales that tell of the story of why peryton are cursed the way they are. As these stag-like predators descend, their shadows are very peculiar. Their shadows cast upon almost a void of wreathing hands and almost like undead necrotic beings that swim in the shadows and try to reach out and grab and suck life from people. There's a heavy curse that lays on these creatures, and Sylowen knows far too well the song. As we're battling on the ship, she's constantly yelling out, "Beware the shadows." Well, unfortunately, Oma, the Wasuwani cleric, fell victim to one. Didn't make the saving throw rolls, and now looks like the actual color and life has been leached from her. She has went hues of gray. Her eyes have whited over, and she has black, almost like poison, looks like it's going through her veins, as she is stuck in the grasp of one of these shadows and these necrotic souls that reached out and clung on to her. As we all know, she is a summoner of ancient spirits, and part of her family, she summons up these creatures that are represented of her ancestry, these totems. And her brother, Tomar, came in the form of a large Baxtra, which is a large, primitive-looking buffalo-like look, bison-like creature. And it appeared on the ship to do battle for her and protect her, almost spirit-walked out of her. As he dissipated, Aeolus goes and picks up the lifeless Oma, which she's not quite lifeless, but she's still stuck in this place. It's like her soul is being held somewhere else in a dark place, and she must be having some battle to cling back to her actual body. Aeolus asks for Dahon to take the wheel and try to get us as close to the Crescent Cradle as we can of what energy the Lodestar has left, as he takes her body, limp and colorless, under decks to hopefully do some work on her. Okay. I think that pretty much catches us up, doesn't it, guys? Or can you think of something else? Pretty good? Okay.
And then there was that time that we leveled up. That was pretty cool.
I couldn't understand you, Jeremy. What's that?
There was that time that we leveled up. That was pretty cool.
There was. That happened. Did you go through and get your shit figured out? Are you ready to rock?
I'm working on it. I almost got it finished up, though.
It's neat. Like I was telling Sean, the feat system is great, but it does require some homework. But at the end of the day, you're making that character just what you want it to be, and you're learning skill trees. It adds an extra element. You either love it or hate it. It is what it is. You don't even have to do it, but if you put the homework in, there's badassness just waiting for you. So, as we're doing that, Dahan, the Pacific Islander fighter, I'm going to have you roll some checks, and the fate of this ship getting to the very first island you will come to of the Crescent Cradle falls in your capable hands. So I'll let you bullshit me here a little bit. Danny, what kind of check do you think it should be to see how well you're able to manage this ship? Now, I've got a DC in mind, depending of the things, that the ship has went through. And I just want you to tell me, what do you think you should be rolling for?
Well, absolutely, with him, I believe it should be charisma, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, wow. That's unique. I'd love to hear this. Go ahead, charisma.
Well, he's actually, he is the first mate, and his job is to lead the crew.
Right.
He's not doing this all by himself. If he was, it would promptly be in the trees. So.
Okay. So, do you have any skills or anything that you've spent points on to better navigate and use an airship?
I think he has like airship something.
Okay.
Like 2 points in it.
So add that plus your charisma modifier to a D20 roll, and let's see how Dahan handles the stress of trying to land this bad boy. That's a lot of hesitation, Danny.
Yeah, well, so I get my proficiency bonus too, right?
Are you proficient in charisma?
Yes, I am.
Well, then you would.
All right, then. Then that's not bad. That would be a 18.
Okay.
I was looking at the raw score, looking at 3 plus 11, going, oh, here we go.
Here we go. Down we go. Okay, so with an 18, Medelia, the ship mage, that looks like Hermione from the Harry Potter films, with the green and gold cloaks beside you, that was putting up the protective barriers and trying to maintain the control of the ship throughout this, looks at you and looks at what you're doing and give me a description. Are you asking her to hold the lodestar and pilot while you're going around and getting people going on the ship? Or are you shouting from where you're at and dictating and doing both at the same time?
He would be probably initially doing it both at the same time, but then asking her if she can take it while he directs.
Okay. As that happens, she looks at you with somewhat of a desperation, and she says to you in a very passive voice, Dahan, I don't know exactly what it is you're planning here, but we don't have much time. And when she says that, she looks into the swirling elements in the center globe of that lodestar that seem to be fading. Okay.
How far are we from the Bay of Hope now?
I will say you are just now coming past the mountain ranges of Wasuwani, and it's going to be close to get to the first island. The first island is called Taluha, Taluha. It is one of the more feral islands of the ones in the Crescent Cradle. You wouldn't want to land there, but it's about your only option. If you want to get to them, that's the place. The trouble is, to the south there, where you're flying over now, it's that dense forest and stuff. So you're going to want to probably land on the outside, somewhere around Taluha.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't need to make the island. I just need to make the water. As long as we're deep enough, we don't drag.
Because it can, one of the very few airships that can do both. So we're doing a water landing, which George Carlin says, that's like crashing into the ocean. I don't know if you've ever seen that skit, but George Carlin's like, the stewardess says, we're going to perform a water landing. He says, sounds a lot like crashing into the fucking ocean to me. So That's what we're trying to do. So with an 18, we're trying a water landing. Okay. Give me an example of some of the things you're yelling at. Tell me what you're telling Dauntus. Just give me a little bit of flavor on this, Danny. Go ahead and make some shit up.
Telling Dauntus to button down anything explosive. Telling the main guys to open the safe.
Okay.
First, he'd ask Medallia which way the wind's coming from, or try to make a perception check. That'd be a smarter way.
Go ahead.
Perception, dirty 20.
Okay, it's coming from the east, so it's going to be on your left-hand side as you're going south.
Me not being a sailor, I don't know the terms, but I know that they can camp the sails a certain way
Okay.
to take advantage of that. So he does the whole sailor speak things and tells them, man the yards and all that stuff.
Oh, and all that stuff. Man the yards and all the immersion you can muster. I get it, man. So good. Batten down the hatches. Eat your spinach, Pop. You get it? Okay. With a natural 20, the crew listens very, very well. You're actually quite impressed. You might get one of these fellas a little drunk later. I mean, that's awesome, okay? So as far as them maneuvering the sails to make this happen, it goes better than you had hoped. Medallia, still holding onto the lodestar, and she seems to be whispering and speaking in some foreign tongue to it as she is almost nurturing the elements that swim inside, almost like they have conscience. Like she's trying to motivate them, almost like just a little more. You can do this. We've got this. We can make this. It's a very odd dance that she's doing, but she's good at what she does. With that, the ship is going extraordinarily fast at this moment. Okay. Now there are two. I believe one of the peryton was still left dead on the actual ship deck, was it not? I believe the one that was laying on top of the globe, I think some of them flew off, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe one was still clinging and wrapped up in the rafters. Is that correct, everyone?
Also, the one Bass came back with is dead on the deck.
Okay, let's say it's that one. Okay. As the winds begin to pick up, Sylowen, you were pretty injured. You went toe-to-toe with one of these things and jumped up and did your sky lancing move and did great, but when you came down, you actually landed in one of these shadows, and that gray life-sucking energy started to overcome you as well, but you were able to fight back from it. I don't know if it was I forget what spell you used, but you were able to pass the wisdom throws. It was because Tamara, the paladin, gave her bonuses for being close to her. That's what it was. I remember Jeremy telling me. With that, these creatures, you've only seen the avian lancers from back home deal with on occasion. You've never really come face to face with one of these, and this is a very eye-opening scenario for you. I mean, that's almost like seeing, monstrous creatures like the boogeyman from your fairy tales, and it's laying there dead on the actual back of the ship. Roll me a charisma saving throw.
Charisma saving throw? Okay.
You're proficient with charisma, so it'd be a +4 plus your charisma modifier.
4 plus my charisma modifier?
Plus a 1d20. Yep.
Okay. 4, 14. 18.
18's not bad. You find yourself looking at this thing as if you're looking at something, like I say, you've only heard about in your fairy tales. And as you walk across the deck slowly, you hear the voice of Tamara. Tamara is a very beautiful, long, blonde-haired paladin-like warrior chick, very strong and dominant. And you can hear her speaking to you almost like you're underwater, like you're almost tuning her out. You're so enthralled with this creature from your stories, as being a bard for so many years. And you hear her kind of saying, Sylowen, don't go near that thing. Sylowen, come back. And as you find yourself, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I look at Tamara, you said?
Tamara, yes.
Tamara, sorry, I'm really bad. I
Go
look
on
at
your
Tamara,
names.
I regard her, but I'm more enthralled by the creature. So, I acknowledge what she's saying.
Okay.
So go towards the creature.
Okay, roll me a history check, please. And that will
Okay.
reveal to me how much of the backstory of these terrible creatures you actually know.
Okay. That
I think it's your
is...
wisdom modifier.
Oh, plus my wisdom modifier?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's another 18.
Awesome. The legend goes that there was a woman that was a sorceress that became very, very jealous of a lover that had cheated on her with many different women. And this is a very popular bard song. And every once in a while, the maidens of song, the other sisters that you were a part of that group with, would talk about her almost like people talk about, like the boogeyman or some kind of ancient wicked legend like the Hansel and Gretel and the witch and the thing, that kind of flavor. And the way the story had always went is that when she was found out and she went around and she started murdering and killing and inflicting old age and death upon all the people that her lover had been cheating on her with, she was found out by those the law of the city, and she was taken and she was publicly executed in front of everybody for her murderous ways. But the husband was unpunished for what he had done, his adultery. Okay. It is said that carrion birds, ravens, crows, and things, that came in and feasted on the body after it had been killed, took on an evil curse from the actual remains of this sorceress. And her lust for blood and her hatred for man carried on through them, and that's what created the peryton of today. So you know in your heart of hearts that those wretched wraith-like hands that reach out of their shadows, that have this very strange, just the very evil presence, you believe are a pool of souls that these peryton have killed from this curse, lost in there forever to be a part of this. And you just can't help but look.
Oh, yeah.
As the ship starts maneuvering, you find yourself stuttering your step just a little bit. Roll me a dexterity check with disadvantage.
Okay. Second. First one was a 15. And second one was a 11.
Okay. With an 11, as Dahan starts shouting off these things and whatnot, that, and you and Dahan know each other very well, and you hear him taking command and shouting these things out, and he gets ready to do a maneuver, and as he does, the ship rocks back and forth, and you find yourself falling and landing on your hands that close to this void of shadows that still swims, only dampened because the creature is now slain. But you still hear these echoes of these backward speaking sounds coming from it. And all of a sudden the hair stands up on the back of your neck as you see something from this mass so close to you now. You're right beside this. You see something that has color. You see a mortal hand fighting and reaching past the swirling shadows and swaps of darkened hair and blackened eyes and gray shadowy twisted mouths and things. You see this mortal hand of pink flesh reaching up and fighting past it, and as it does, it reaches up, it lands on the deck of the ship beside you with a thump. It seems like it's searching around for help. What are you doing?
Can I try to help this person?
You can. Are you shouting anything? And I would also like for Shadae and Bastille and Brahmus to roll perception checks, because when she fell with Tamara telling her to stop, there's a chance that it would have drawn your attention. Now, just before we do this, Shadae, were you still up in the crow's nest and on your way down? Or what would you like to say your character was doing when this happened? You are muted.
Shadae, as soon as the battle was over and everything was calming down, she would have jumped down to the deck, because she can.
Because she can. Monk shit.
Yeah, the monk shit. And then I think she was on her way into the ship while the body was being carried in.
Okay.
And she has a bag with her, I assume, or something, or she's heading in toward the ship to where she kept her stuff, because there's something in her stuff that she thinks she might be able to use.
Outstanding. So I'll say that you were heading in right after Aeolus had taken Oma down in there too. You were falling behind because you had some things you needed to cater to. As you see off over your shoulder, you hear Tamara saying, Sylowen, don't, what are you doing? Sylowen, stop. Roll your perception check, please.
Okay.
By the way, if that background music gets a little bit loud, you guys just let me know. Can you hear anything at all?
I hear you perfectly.
Nice, good deal. Okay.
Ooh, that's not bad.
Ooh.
That is a total of 19.
That is better than 18, so that is not bad. You see her fall. As she catches herself, you hear the lance kind of fall off her back and hit the deck. And as she pushes herself up, you see that hand reach out of the shadows, desperately looking around. Bastille, roll perception check.
19.
You as well see this. Where was it you were located at the end of this? I know you were back near the ass end of the ship towards the rear ballista, correct, sir?
Yeah, which was only like about 12 feet away from the carcass.
So I'm going to say, for theatrical purposes, that you have to look over top of the bird to see her. You just saw her fall. And you can't see the hand reaching out of the shadows, but you can see her start to push herself up and the look on her face.
I misty step to her.
Nice. Okay, hold that. Brahmus, where are you at when this starts to go down, my friend?
Brahmus is going around the ship trying to help out, get things back in order as best he can.
Okay, let's say he's mending some of those ropes that he had to cut and wrapped around the antlers of that son of a bitch and all that stuff, and you're trying to put that stuff. For the hell of it, roll a, what would it be for that? What do you think? I mean, there's so many different things that could be. I mean, it could be a dexterity check. Well, I mean, if you want it to be, I see no problem. I don't know, what is it when you're trying to use tools and perform something? That's wisdom, isn't it?
Well, usually with a tool, it's just a D20 plus your proficiency with the tool.
Go ahead and just give me that, because you're not much for airships, bud.
I don't have any tool proficiency, so just a straight D20, I'd say.
Yeah. You know what? I'll give you a +1 to it because you did so well in wrapping that shit around the head of that creature. You've learned a little in the last hour.
Well, +1 puts me at a 15.
A 15 is better than a 10. I'll say you're starting to connect the ropes, and some of those people that Dahan was shouting at are climbing up those sails and trying to get things to where the eastern wind will catch the sails, and you're actually taking some of those parts and throwing up to them and reconnecting these lines, and it's going fairly decent. Okay? So, with that, you also, did you roll perception, and what did you say it was?
I rolled a 17 for perception.
17. You also notice this. But from your vantage point, you're looking across the whole ship deck, and you can see the head of this thing laying sideways with the eyes dead and open, with the horns laying across, the one that Danny had done battle with and had hurt him gravely. And you can't quite see the hand, but you see Sylowen coming up onto all fours and has this look of shock on her face. You have a very protective nature. I'll give you one quick turn to react to this in a way that you see fit.
Does he see the hand?
You do not from your vantage point. There's too many different obstacles in the way, but you can see her, and she has a look of, it's a mixture of curiosity and terror.
With that, he'll run over to her immediately.
Okay. And lastly, Sean, what is it you would like to do with your action as you saw this going down?
Shadae will snap Isadora into existence, and kind of like mentally tell her just keep an eye on everything while she continues into the ship.
Okay. Where would you like Isadora to fly up to? Around the crow's nest, or where? It's going really fast, so she would have a hard time keeping up with the ship. We're going like
Isadora's just gonna kind of like fly to like the closest perch she can get to it, and
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As that happens, where is it that Shadae is headed?
Shadae is headed to her room or wherever she was sleeping.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So now normally you have to close your eyes to be able to see through Isadora's, correct?
Yeah, I'd have to blind myself, so.
Okay. And have we ever discussed that this creature, this bird that you're able to summon from your rapier, does it have a communication that it talks to you with things that it sees? Well, I've never really delved much into that with familiars.
I think the familiar can react to what I say and convey. It would be as if I had a pet that would convey its own emotions, and possibly it can understand me. I don't think it can talk back to me.
It seems to caw frantically at the sight of something as you begin to head and descend down into the quarters underneath the ship, as you just walk past the doorway and are headed down into that next era. You know the sound of this thing being urgent, and it seems to do that. Now, if that excites you or not, that's fine. There are people there to handle things, and you have business to attend to. I'm just letting you know that. You can react however you would like.
I just psychically tell the bird, I know, but this is more important.
Well done. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to deal with this up here for just a moment, and then I will talk to you and what you're up to under deck, unless you need to keep that secret from everybody. You let me know, and I'll come back to you in just a few. Okay? So, you, young lady, Rachel, this hand, human in nature, scorned, scuffed up, not old, seems to reach out and is putting its hand on deck. What is it that you are wanting to do? You're wanting to do what exactly? I want to make sure you're very specific about this.
Yeah. Do I see Brahmus sort of like coming over to me?
You do. You see people rushing up, and I'm going to let you kind of have this little theater moment here where I'll give them a chance to say something to you, but only right after you decide to take the next step here.
Okay.
You can wait, or you can do this, because they're not quite to you. You're going to have a moment to do something here before help arrives or counsel or anything of that nature. This is just Rachel versus the mystery hand right now. So
okay, and like you said, it seems desperate, like it wants to like come. Does it look like it has like malicious like intention, or is it just like desperately like trying to get out?
And what did you roll in your perception check again? It was like a 18 or 19 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It looks like someone frantically trying to cling on to something.
Okay. Well, first I yell to the person whose hand this belongs to. I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna help you.
Okay.
And I like trying to like pull him like with both arms, trying to like yank this hand up.
Okay. When you do that, I need you to do me a wisdom saving throw at advantage, because the creature is slain, but you're still reaching into this depth, and this has to do with that newfound courage that you have in yourself, Sylowen. Normally this thing would have scared old Sylowen to death, and you would have steered clear of it, but you're braver than you used to be. And you reach down into past all these swirling things, almost like trying to dig out the nightcrawler when you're fishing. You're just kind of like, and you're getting onto this arm now. Are you using your hand? Are you taking your lance and going in there and giving it something to grab to, or what are you thinking?
Is he like close? Is the hand like, oh, since the hand is trying to grab onto something, I take my lance and sort of like hold it down as sort of like a rope or like a stick for somebody to grab onto.
Smart. Okay. Well, go ahead and roll with advantage a wisdom saving throw for me. Let me know what
Okay. Hold on a second. My dice just fell on the ground. Let me roll.
You're okay.
Sorry about that. Hold on.
Right on.
First one I rolled a 4.
Let's hope the next one's a little better.
Yeah. 19 plus 1, 20.
I like it. 20s are good in this situation. That'll work. Okay, so as you roll that, all of a sudden you see all these shadowy hands start to kind of wrap up around that too, and it's kind of brushing them off, and the fingers, oh yeah, the fingers find purchase on this actual thing. You are able to fight back the whispers of the spirits and things as you find yourself humming a song that you learned when you were a maiden of song. Okay, and we're going to say for theatrics here that you are giving inspiration to this hand, this thing. You're giving bardic inspiration to it as you are singing some kind of song of a heroine that is able to muster this up. It's an awesome scene for you guys as she is truly trying to save whatever soul is lost in this abyss. Roll me a strength check, please.
Okay.
With advantage because of the song that you are singing.
Okay. First one I rolled a 6.
Okay. Let's hope it's like last time. Just gets better and better. Come on.
19.
Another 19. And are you adding your strength modifier to it? I think you have a plus 2.
Yeah, it was 18 plus 1, so 19.
Okay, awesome. That is enough. As you're singing this, and you're singing the ballad of that story I told you, you're almost singing something spiteful against this, talking about the woman and how she didn't deserve to take those lives, and the curse needs to be lifted and let this soul free. And as you're doing it, the hands, the shadowy wraith hands, seem to repel a little bit as you can see the body of the creature begin to twitch as if you're torturing the soul within it to repel back. The hands recite. What's the word begins with an R? It's like when the waves go back in from the ocean. Recess? What is it?
Recede.
The hands recede. Thank you, DM's helpers. Love everybody, man. They recede away, leaving room for this one to hold on as you pull, and you now see the face and the upper torso of what looks like a human man with wide eyes that are just searching as if he has just been woken from a nightmare. The person has long brown hair and a well-trimmed up mustache. It is pointed on the end with a pointed bit of hair on his chin. Quite attractive and handsome, but desperate, with no shirt on and scratch marks all over his body. If you have seen the movie Dracula Untold, or have you seen the Lord of the Rings movies, the second grouping of them, The Hobbit, he is the actor that played Bard the Bowman. He also played in the Dracula Untold. He also played in one of the Three Musketeers movies. Look it up if you have time, if you can. If not, I'll pull it up later and show you guys an image. But I think, who knows who I'm talking about?
His name is Luke Evans.
Luke Evans, that's it. So if you look up Luke Evans, that's who this guy looks like. And as he does, he looks at you, and desperately. At this moment, Bastille and Brahmus are there. What are you two doing? As his body is halfway pulled up out of this, her song seems to be repelling these things from holding on to him. We'll start with Mirk because Danny's on the phone. So go ahead, buddy.
He'll probably reach down and try to help her pull the body out.
Okay.
Trying to make sure she doesn't get too close to it.
Okay, and you're reaching in with your weapon or just or Brahmus's arm?
He's just protecting Sylowen at all costs from the wind. He's reaching in with a big old hand.
Awesome. Roll me a wisdom check with advantage because of the way she's singing and it's making these recede. Yeah. That R word.
23.
23 is not bad, sir. 23 is respectable. With that, with your mighty arm, Sylowen is crazy how strong this construct of Brahmus is. It's like 7 foot tall and just wide. I'll let your imagination kind of run wild on what this thing looks like. It looks very human looking, almost like an ancient robot technology with pieces that look like it's made out of granite and stone, with fine metals that embroider it, with a visor almost like a robotic knight. Brahmus is a sight to behold, and with his mighty arm, you feel slack automatically in your spear that doesn't matter at this point, as he has pulled this person up onto the deck. As you do, you see this character has a pair of fine red and black velvet pants that have been torn to shreds that are still clinging on to him, as he looks like he has brimstone and dust, as if he's been pulled in from a hellscape. Jeremy, as he flops onto the deck top and stuff, he shudders away from that thing as he's no, and he pushes himself back and he kicks his feet up and he gets underneath of the railing on the side of the ship, scatters like 10 foot, like quicker than you can blink, and he's literally holding himself, and he has that same frosted over breath that Oma did when this curse first took her over, almost like in the movies when they see a ghost coming, and he's just holding himself. He's just shaking. He's just looking at it, and he closes his eyes. And he says a word. And I'm trying to remember what the name is. Damn it. Marlissa. I'm so sorry. And he says it with broken words. As he holds himself and his eyes close, and he seems to slow down and shake and twitch a little bit. And he seems to pass out from exhaustion up against the underneath the railing. With that, Danny, are you able to interact with this real quick? Okay. So with that, I'm going to have Danny kind of standing back and looking at all this. He would say to Brahmus, "Are you okay? I saw you. Sylowen, are you okay?" As his spirit saw you reach into this stuff.
Yeah. I'm a little bit shaken up, but I nod and I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. But I look very shaken up.
Okay, as that happens, Danny's character, Bastille, stands in front of Brahmus and kind of puts himself in between this person passed out along the side and in between you all. Almost like trying to put himself between a fierce dog, and starts to draw a sigil into the air in front of him that remains there and holds there, almost like he's doing a radiant-like painting with his fingertip. And as he does this and stuff, and he pushes his hand towards it, you can see the symbol float towards this being. And as it does, it dissolves and disappears into him as almost like a bubble being blown through the air. And as it does that, you can see some of the brimstone and scarring and some of the marks heal on him ever so slightly. As Danny has done some very low-level cure or some kind of remove curse or some kind of very low-level kind of spell trying to comfort this person that has went through what appears to be so much. Okay? Danny, did you hear what I said your character just did?
Absolutely. Sounds like healing light. So I'll use, say, two of his die pool.
Mm-hmm.
And that'd be 8 points of life back to him.
Okay. As you do, you see a calm come over the face, and the strain seems to recede a little bit, but he still seems to be passed out. No more shaking of tremors, but laying there. And you've never seen anything like this. This is straight out of storybook shit.
He'll try another one. He'll try lesser restoration.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me a spellcraft check. Now for everyone that needs to know, Arcana is the thing you put skill points towards that makes you understand how to decipher and learn and understand what you're dealing with, as far as magical items and shit like that, reading a scroll. Spellcraft is to performance of these things. Okay, so Arcana is one thing that's the learning, and spellcraft is the performance and doing. So on your character sheets, if you're wanting to put skill points towards one or the other of these, make sure you understand the difference, because high level spells and sometimes using magic items could either take an Arcana check just to understand how it works, and sometimes it's a spellcraft check to be able to pull it off physically and mentally. Okay?
16.
16. Let me roll something here. Okay, that's actually very good. As you do, you see something happen that you don't know how to feel about this. As you cast that up on this being, you see the lip twitch a little bit and the nostril flare, and you hear a growl as the shoulder twitches a little bit like this. It seems like you've made it uncomfortable somehow. There's something not right here. You don't know if it's at the fault of it. You don't know if there's some kind of demon residing in it. I would like for you to roll a history check of disadvantage. Brahmus, you're seeing this too.
17.
You think he must have been through some really bad shit. And it's something that you are not capable of handling at your level with your spell. But you have made an effect, and you have tapped into something you just don't know what. Okay? Let's go ahead and, Brahmus, I'll give you an instant to have an interaction, say something to Rachel, talk to him. Let's just kind of create the scene, then I'm going to go to Shadae going underneath the ship. So go ahead, Brahmus. Role play, buddy.
So you got to be careful reaching into things like this.
I nod and I look at Brahmus. I'm like, I know. I'm sorry. I just saw that he looked desperate, and oh, I'm sorry.
Danny, you can chime in too. You're part of this conversation.
Bass kind of laughs and looks up at Brahmus. And he says, I remember when there was a one-winged avian that looked pretty desperate. Somebody charged through a wall.
Friends behind me, did I not?
Say again, my friend?
But I had friends behind me, did I not?
He looks to her and then points up to you and winks.
Nice.
Never throw away your safety.
I know.
And you know, when you hear these words coming from him, Sylowen, you've got a taste of the freedom of not having to worry about the order of the stars anymore. And it is almost like a child in a candy shop to a degree, but he always brings you back to center and brings about this kind of, maybe he's right. He has that kind of effect on you to a degree. But you're still very curious. Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to, for flavor, when Brahmus mentions the what did you say about taking care of yourself first or something like that? Whatever it was.
Not throwing away your safety.
Yeah, not throwing away your safety. Isadora cause in a way that emphasizes what he said.
Okay. Almost like, I get it. Like, yeah. I get it, man. That's cool.
Yeah, what he said.
What he said, yeah. So, with that, let's...
Oh, wait, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Isadora caws and then flaps just one wing.
Nice. Look at you with the flavor. I like it, buddy. All right. So, with that, let's go below decks with Shadae and see what's going on. Shadae, talk to me. You see Aeolus carrying Oma, and with that you've walked down to the bottom of the stairway. You're going a different direction. You're going to your quarters in this place. Now, I want to remind you that you are very, very proficient in piloting an airship that, in your opinion, is probably much better than this one. You know what I mean? Because it is the shit in a different way. Also, when you get to the bottom of the stairs, you see Tamara walk in the top and head down the hallway after them as if she's going to try to help Omen some way. And She looks at you for just a moment and nods at you and says, I don't know how much longer we've got until we either land or crash, so be prepared. I want to see what I can do back here to help this situation.
I understand. Do what you can.
She nods to you, and she starts to recite some words as you see a glow come from her hand that radiates and bounces off the cabin hallway as she goes down, like she's almost carrying a radiant lantern. Describe to me where you're going and what you're doing, sir.
So Shadae is rushing to where she's staying.
Okay.
And she goes to a hidden alcove that I don't know if she's created for herself. It was there, however you want to flavor it.
Disclaimer for everybody: we need to learn how to role play here. This is stuff you don't know what's going on, so your characters don't know. I'm just letting Sean do this because he deserves to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So remember, no metagaming. Go ahead, Sean.
And so she goes into an alcove, a little hidden cache of her stuff where she usually keeps her things in.
Okay.
I messaged you. I'm sorry, it's the last minute message you, but right now the images are running through her mind of what happened to her in the past and the observations she's currently made about, shadows, she's thinking back to the goblins. She's thinking back to this battle she just had, and she's contemplating life choices that she's made. As she reaches into her secret cache, she pulls out this bundle.
That's all your message, Sean. Please go ahead.
In this bundle, it's a series of scrolls that she nicked from a monastery in her past. And on top of it is a half mask in the shape of a raven.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice.
And she sits there in contemplation and just stares at it.
Okay. Roll me a charisma check. That's the good dance. What'd you get, bud?
It's a dirty 20.
Okay. So, for just giving you some flavor and how to react to this, Sean, the person that you want to be seems to be triumphant in this moment of dilemma. As you look at this and are reminded of things from your past, things that possibly could be your future, you think about Gleandra. You think about the drowned kiss. And you look to this in search of inspiration, not knowing what's next for you. And you're able, with that check, to react to this in a way that you would see favorable for Shadae. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Shadae looks at the scrolls. She drops her dark form to reveal her true self.
Awesome.
And she dons the mask.
That is awesome. So she dons the mask, yeah. So, at some point when you come back out, will you mind describing that for everybody, what that looks like? We'll do it after a bit. Hey, fantastic, sir.
Yeah.
Fan-fucking-tastic. I'm a fan. So, how long would you like to remain there before you come back out? And let's say as soon as you put the mask on, Sean, you have a moment there where you're able to see through Isidore's eyes. Okay?
Shadae is actually going to she's going to put the mask on, she's going to open the scrolls, and she's actually going to lock herself into the room until lock herself in a room. Yeah.
Okay. So I will go through a little bit more on deck and go through the landing. At some point here, I will reference you or raise your hand when there's commotion if you would like to come out of there. That way I'm not rushing what you want to do, and I'm giving you a chance to do your thing. Okay? All right. Moving on past that. End scene. Okay. So moving past that, let's go back to the outside of the ship. As this happens, and you guys are so focused in on this, you're you are shaken, stirred back into the reality that you're on an airship that's in bad fucking shape. And as you're all staring at this person, he does this kind of monstrous kind of snarl and growl and has some kind of inner demon that you see him fight with when you cast that spell on him, Bastille. All of a sudden, I need everyone to roll a dexterity check to see if you're able to keep your feet again as the ship rocks hard and banks to the left. Sorry, the right. Banks to the right. West. I'll start with you, Rachel. How you doing?
Say check or save?
Let's do it just a dexterity save. I know what the DC is.
Anybody near me gets +4.
Now here's the thing.
Dex check or dex save?
It is, and you're proficient in dexterity. So it's your modifier from dex plus your proficiency bonus. Now, while everyone's rolling up their totals, I do want to make a comment about the paladin's ability to help people with saving throws. I'm going to let that go because it's as written.
Sorry.
But there's always been something about it that bothers me just a touch, because I can see that the aura of a very holy paladin would help people battle curses, saving throws for wisdom, saving throws for intelligence, charisma, battling against dark forces. But if you're doing a strength check or a dexterity check to see how strong or fast you are, it seems strange for me that that aura would affect those things as well. Now, I'm willing to do it, but in the future, I may just contain that to things that a paladin's holy radiance would be able to affect and counter. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, I'm not trying to water you down. Trust me, I'm a fan of you guys kicking some ass. We're on the same team here. But, you know, if someone's arm wrestling and all of a sudden a paladin walks up to them and they're like, "Oh yeah," you know, that seems weird for me. That doesn't have the flavor that I would like. Is that fair? See, that's what you do. That's not fair, Jeremy. I go debating rules and you bring a cute kid into it. That's dirty pool, sir. That's dirty pool. God, how am I supposed to be a rules lawyer with that face? That's ridiculous. All right, moving on. You've made your damn point. So, and also, if you guys do send me a private message in there, I've got millions of screens up. Let me know. Be like, Brian, message, and I'll check it out when I can, okay? So,
Message.
Gotcha. See? That's awesome. Interesting. Now, is that moving forward here? Or what'd you do with the last one that you gained? Sean?
You're muted.
He's messaging.
I'll
me.
message you.
Oh, okay.
He's being incognito. We got secrets.
I thought he was like trying to say something, and I mean, I've done it before.
We always make sarcastic jokes that the silence spell is just run amok. Danny's character has a ring of silence, and I'm always like, Danny, you rubbed the fucking ring again. Daggone it, man. So.
With Sean, it could be he's just practicing mime in his acting school.
It very well could be. It very well could be. So I will wait for that to come through, and then I will respond to that, Sean, how I see fit. Okay, moving forward. Dahan is able to get the ship to a certain place. Let's go ahead and jump forward a little bit with the landing of said ship. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. So, Dahan, you had some good rolls there, Brahmus. Now that person is there, do you want to go back to tending to the ship? Does someone want to stand guard and watch over this person? I'll let you guys decide what you want to do in this moment. I'll start with Bastille.
So dex check first.
Sure. Let's see if you're on your ass or not.
With his 24.
Mm-hmm. You're tap dancing, sir. You're good. What are you doing?
He's probably just kind of stepping back a little bit and watching that guy, and then he's also looking around at where the ship's going and silently asks Steelbeak if he's ready in case.
Okay. Awesome, Steelbeak. I love it. As you do, who did we decide was the voice of Steelbeak?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Yes. Steelbeak is a celestial griffin that he actually helped free the soul of, that he can summon to his aid at times because D&D rocks. As you say that, the voice comes across. I am ready. Be careful, Bastille. With that, Brahmus, what was your check again? What did you make on your deck save? You're muted.
20.
Dirty 20. You're able to stand up as your weight kind of keeps you on your feet. What do you want to do, buddy? Danny seems to be watching over top of this new person that was sucked out of the shadows. Also, I want you to roll me a charisma check. Just a regular charisma check.
14.
As this peryton is still on the deck of the ship and is kind of sliding around as we are rocking and stuff, it seems to be starting to move and get in the way of Dahon and them operating the ship. It might be a good time to get this fucking thing thrown overboard. That could be a possibility. You also have all the ropes and things that you could help maintain as well. And you also have Oma that has went down below decks as Tamara has went down trying to help her out as well. Plus, whatever else you can fathom, because D&D's awesome. What would
I
you
think
like
first
to do?
and foremost,
Yes.
he wants to get rid of the peryton, just toss it overboard, but he does want to snap the antlers off of it first.
Nice. Do you want to take it and slam it into something like Dahon, or do you want to be civil?
Just reach down and just crank.
Okay, roll me a strength check, please.
Get advantage since it's dead.
No, because bars of a jail cell are dead too, but they're still hard to break.
That's a 17.
A 17 will work. You're a fairly stout fella. I'm going to say you're able to break these horns off the creature, and as you do, its head kind of turns sideways and its tongue just kind of goes. Ugh. It's weird. It's still got the nerves and shit, and its one eye opens up and just goes. But you're able to do it. What are you doing with the horns, bud?
He'll find something to do with them, but for now, it was like tying him to his belt or something.
Okay, and
this thing.
Okay, roll me one more strength check to get this thing thrown over the side. I want to see how this goes.
15.
15, you struggle, and when you try to get it over the first banister, although Brahmus is a mighty thing, it would have reflected in your saving throw. The bonuses are there. So it gets kind of caught on the side, and the ship wanes for just a minute as Dahon says to you, as you are struggling to get it over the side.
Get it off.
Right on.
All I'm picturing is like Weekend at Bernie's, trying to get this thing up. It looks like it's like walking across the deck.
Yeah, I get it, man. Yeah. So you're pushing on it, and you can see little puffs of steam and shit, and you can hear Genjin's gears grinding, and he finishes shoving that son of a bitch over the side, and it just disappears into the canopy below. As you can see that you're now, and you smell it, all of you, that you're coming up on ocean water. This is going to be going into the Watching Sea, and you can see the island that you were trying to make it to in the distance. Although it is very small at this point, and it's hard to look, because remember, it was, if not the very last week of December, very early January. Now, keep in mind that we're moving into a tropical climate, so the air temperature has really changed. So right now, we've went from it being cold in the mainlands to this humidity and this ocean smell kind of coming up over top of the ship. Okay? As that is approaching, Rachel, what would Sylowen like to be doing at this moment?
Well, for my dex check, I did roll a 16 for that.
So you're standing. I like that. That's a good start.
Yeah.
You have this strange person there. You have the ship that needs to be mended to. There is all kinds of people on this ship. There is Dauntus, which is what looks like this little steampunk like red-headed dwarf bombardier. It has a vest with all kinds of explosives, and he has goggles on his head. He's a little gambler. You have Oma, that was taken under by Aeolus, the ship captain. Aeolus is played by the character that plays Lucifer in the Lucifer series.
Yep.
That's who plays him. The swashbuckling airship pilot. You have all these different things going on. What is it you'd like to do?
I'm gonna go over to the strange person that I helped out and just make sure that he's okay and that he survived the bumpy landing.
Okay, so roll a medicine check for me, please.
Okay. I rolled 8.
Okay. You're not quite sure what this guy's ailment is, but it is something that you've not seen. He seems to be in a slumber. He seems to have passed out from something going on within him. But what Danny had done to him, and as you're investigating him, Bastille, you're standing back looking at her and watching all this go on. It is a mystery. And you can't believe that it happened. I mean, he's real. And he's laying right here on the ship. And it's thanks to you. It really is. With that, Danny, have you described to Rachel what your character looks like?
So what you would see is a hooded elf. His coloring and stuff would lead you to believe he's a elf of the sun. But he's actually he dresses like a veiled elf.
I explained that to her briefly earlier.
Yeah.
But you know who The Last Kingdom? Have you seen it?
No.
No. Oh, I can't think of the guy's name, but he plays Uhtred. That's the actor that would play him.
Okay.
Somebody help me out with the name. Dream? No.
What's it called? The Last Kingdom?
Yeah.
I'm looking this up.
He's got long, dark hair. Obviously, he's an elf, so he doesn't have the beard.
Alexander Draymond?
Yep, that's him.
Okay.
That's the guy. That's Danny. So, with that, you're investigating that. Dayhon is landing this. We've already done the checks. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. So, Shadae, as you are in the room and you have locked the door, you start to smell that ocean air, and the temperature seems to pick up inside the cabin. You know that we're coming close, and you're hoping that this frail ship, compared to the Dreadnought, can handle that. But you are very focused on what you are doing as well. Okay? As it begins to make its descent, I need you to do another check for me, just like you did the one before, Danny. This has been your ability to get there, and I rolled a check for Medalia to help nurture the elements until that time, and she rolled a natural 19. She did very, very well. You have just enough left to try to find a clearing and land on the outskirts of the first island. And you're so new to this, you only know the name of that first island, and it is Talua.
I'm going to try to put in the water.
Okay, the water. So go ahead, one more check, and let's go ahead and bring that sucker down. How far out from the actual shoreline are you trying to land?
Hold on, my friend. I'm not going to move a thing. I'm going to send you a picture of this.
Oh my God, he's rolling 20s. Liar! Damned liar. It's all good.
Got a little insight for you thinking that he's lying.
Insight checks from everybody. Insight.
That's 0.
Right, so what is that total, sir? 30 something?
No, with Dayhon, charisma for that would be a 27 total. But if you check your phone, it's there.
Okay. 27 in the landing of this will have Aeolus buying you drinks later. Okay? We're going to see, this is almost like when you come to a stop sign and you're trying to stop the car so gently that you can't feel the bump. I know we've all done it. We've all tried to do that. And this is the D&D version of that moment where you barely feel a little bit of a okay.
As he's coming down and he starts a descent and starts to bring the nose back up, he actually he yells to Dantus, Bet your life on this landing, and then greases it in.
He looks over and he goes, I'll not be betting on anything that you do. Oh, my God. And he holds on to the railing list, and you see him go, Hum! And he goes to start to vomit over the side as he's holding onto the railing and stuff like that. And you can just hear the shit jingling on him. It's almost like someone's taking down a Christmas tree with all the fucking bulbs on it still. He's just kind of going through this motion. As it lands, waves crash up along the sides. It's a belly down landing. It was fast. It was rough, but what you rolled was phenomenal. That is great sailor work there. Super good navigation. As you land into that, how many hundreds of yards are you back away from the actual shore of Talua?
Since he doesn't know the depth of the water, he's going to be a good 300 yards out because he doesn't want to get the keel in it.
Okay. Once the ship goes down, Shadae, you feel that on the inside that jars you. Everyone else feels that as well. And as soon as they hit the water, this person that you're kind of beside, Sylowen, you hear a and the eyes open up. He looks around. Where are we? Where? He looks at you, and he looks at the armor, and he looks at you, and he goes, I would never have imagined that angels would look this way. Who or what? Holy shit. And he's just kind of looking around with a bit of humor and a bit of just trying to play this off as couth. And he goes to stand up on weakened legs and goes to fall. I want you to roll a dexterity check to help him stand up as he goes to fall towards you.
Her or me?
Her. She's closer.
Okay.
I rolled a nat 20 plus 4, so 24.
And because she said, if Danny can do it, I can too. It's no problem. So yeah, it's all good. So as you do that, you catch him. He feels your stoutness, and as he lands there upon you, holds on to you for a minute. He's awkwardly close to you for just a second, and he kind of fakes kind of a grin. He goes, I wouldn't have imagined it this way. Normally this works the other way around. You'll have to excuse the awkwardness. He kind of says with a smile as he pushes himself and stands up straight and goes to dust him off. And he goes, I have things. I should have things. Who? And he looks at you, and he looks over at Bastille, and he looks up at the sky, and he goes, this won't do at all. And he goes to walk over towards the edge of the ship, and he leans against the railing and looks out into the ocean water and takes a very deep, cleansing breath. And he looks back over his shoulder, and he says to Sylowen and Bastille both at the same time, he goes, was someone going to offer me a shirt, or are you just going to sit there and be mesmerized by my back for the next hour?
I was thinking you might offer us a name since we just pulled you out of shadows on the deck of the ship.
A name. Yes, and about that. I don't know. And pulled me out of the shadows. Is this a limerick or a ballad? You simply do not pull people from shadows.
It's like I've pulled Roland from the deck of a ship.
Just a minute. Oh, wow. He looks at you for a long moment. And you can see that kind of charismatic characteristic about him, which is why you said what you said. And as you say that, he stops and freezes, and he speaks the word Roland in his mouth without making words. He looks at you and he goes, "What did you say?"
Said it's as if I pulled Roland's twin from the deck of a ship.
And the two, you would imagine, could be best friends.
Yeah.
He is very much like him to a degree, but a little bit more serious to a degree. There's a darkness to him. And as he says that, he goes, "I should very much like to meet this Roland, is it? In the future, but in the meantime, a shirt would do. I seem to have nothing to offer you."
Do I need to roll to kind of gauge his reaction after seeing that, or is it pretty dang obvious that sparked something with him?
Roll a perception check with disregular, not disadvantage.
Brian, I messaged you.
Thank you.
It's kind of lengthy.
25.
Yeah.
Can I try to find this guy's shirt?
Absolutely, you can. Do an investigation check.
Okay.
Easy, new guys haven't earned the right to wear a shirt in our party.
Right, is that what you say?
No, just
okay.
I rolled a net 20 plus 3, so
God.
23.
How you want to dress him? You know, he is the D&D Barbie doll right now. I mean, you rolling 20s on finding stuff for him. You would find, probably when they hit the water, you would have seen some of the crew members with those swashbuckling like shirts. They would have got wet. They would have been taking them off. And as you guys are sailing those last 300 yards, navigating around the coral and stuff, trying to get into this, you would see shirts of random people swapped over the side trying to dry in the sun. You would pick one of those you think would best fit him, which you do pretty well.
Okay.
Describe the shirt to me, please, just for fun.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say it's it would have been like a white shirt, but since it probably belonged to a swashbuckler, it's probably like yellow, slightly colored by now, with like a few stains of like beer or like rum or whatever. But it's in working condition. It's wearable, but obviously, not a finely white nice shirt. And I slowly go over to him, and I'm like nervous and a little bit uncomfortable by his charismatic behavior.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit taken aback by it and what seemed like it was flirting. I'm not slowly, just like, not to him in any way, because I don't know if he's like still like bruised up or whatever. Like, be careful, not trying to hurt him more than he already is.
Okay, cool. As you do that, you'd also realize to a degree he is stabbing in the dark here at a moment of normalcy. This seems to be his natural go-to charismatic play. This is still a very distressed individual, okay?
Yeah.
And as you do hand him the shirt, he looks at you and he gives you a long bow and a nod with a arched eyebrow and says, "I believe this will do nicely."
I nod and I smile back at him.
He goes to put this thing on, and as he does, he winces just a bit, and he says under his breath, I'm going to have to try to avoid that in the future. It's quite painful. And you see these marks and these claw marks over his body. You almost have to assume it's from the hands that were in that pit.
So as he says it, Bass looks at him and he's observing very closely now when he makes this joke. He says, "It'll cost you a storm of silver if you think I'm going to dress you."
He smiles, and as he's putting his other arm into the shirt, and he walks up to you kind of closely, he says, "I wouldn't imagine. It seems like I still remember how to put on a shirt." And he comes in a little close to you, Danny, and he whispers something. He goes, "I don't know exactly what it is you're playing at." He says, "But you have my attention."
He
And
smiles.
he's putting the shirt on.
He smiles, and I try to think thieves can't. Can you read?
What are we trying to read?
Oh, shoot, that is not the right one.
Are you private messaging me too?
Trying to.
This is the most secretive D&D game ever. I'm
Yeah.
getting like shit from Sean. I'm getting shit from you. It's ridiculous. Rachel, if you'd like to just send a private message, I mean, fuck, it's in fashion. Just go ahead and jump on the bandwagon. As I stare distantly into words instead of eyeballs here. Sean wrote me a damn novel. I'd almost have to put a damn bookmark on this. So, with that, and I'll see if I get that message here in just a minute, Danny. You're just sending me something on Messenger, right?
No, I sent it on the chat through. Should have popped up on your Zoom.
See, if you do that in the future, just send me a private message.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. Let me see here. Yeah, send it to me on private message, please. So, with that, Dahan, you are now approaching the reef. You don't see any particular issues, but as we are going into this place, and all we have is the sound of the water and people scurrying around on the ship and things of that nature, all of a sudden you hear Isadora, Shadae's raven, call out a blood-curdling call. Okay? As in the distance, you hear and see something that I want you to roll me a charisma check. A charisma saving throw. What'd you get?
With bonuses, that would be a 13 total.
Okay. As you're looking ahead into this place, from the long distance off, you can see this thick tree-ridden place with a long stretching beach of darkened black sand. Okay? And heavy clouds and a storm seems to be forming over top of the islands currently. As you guys are sailing into this, you can see it off in the distance, almost like a painting, as it begins to roll in. And as that happens, with a burst of thunder, you see something gigantic up in the distance, and your blood runs absolutely cold. You almost aren't even sure that you saw it. It's almost like your imagination is playing tricks on you, but you could have swore that you saw around a large mountain off in the distance, you saw the shadow of something flying around it through the deepened clouds and the thunder that was bigger than any creature you've ever seen in your life. Almost like you saw a plane off in the distance, or an airship going through the clouds. And it curdles your blood. You're the only person that saw it. As you look around, surprised by this, you're getting, you have this feeling of, because you like to deal with the creatures. You are a legendary beast hunter, a fighter. This does something to you. You feel insignificant.
He leans over to Medallia and says, "How soon before you can charge this lodestar?"
She looks to you and sees the concern in your eyes. And she kind of winces for a minute. And like I say, it's played by Hermione. Okay. Emma Watson. And she looks at you, she goes, "Well, it's not exactly that I couldn't do it quickly. I simply need to be in the right environment. And while we are moving, I cannot conjure the elements to us. They lie dormant everywhere and amongst the trees in the earth."
Anchors away.
Anchors away. And as you say that, everyone begins to start to throw the anchors overboard as you are roughly 100 yards out from the black sand coastline at this moment. Okay? At this moment, you had been flying for quite a while. We are going to say the sun is starting to set. Okay? In the sky, I'll tell you in just a minute, with the storm clouds rolling in and the thunder crashing in the distance, is mesmerizing. With the difference in climate and temperature from this place to their place, you have to imagine there are quite a few storms in here. And as lightning rumbles against those clouds in the background, you look one more time into the distant mountains so far away. I'm going to say that you have a telescope somewhere close to you. Go ahead and try using that, Danny.
Natural 12.
As you look and search again, just to be sure that you've seen what you've seen, you don't see that large shadow looming just beneath the darkened clouds again. It's almost reassuring. Maybe you didn't see it. But you could have swore you heard something other than thunder, as Isadora is still looking in that direction, mesmerized up on the crow's nest, and will not turn its head from it. Okay? With that, I would like for us to go ahead and take a 15-minute break. I'm getting ready to pause the recording. We'll bullshit for 5 minutes, get something to drink, take a leak, do what we got to do, and then we'll come back and go through landing and talk about what we're going to do for the night. Does that sound good for everybody? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pause that now. We'll return in just a few moments. And we are back. And I want to go ahead and start by addressing Danny's character, Bastille, has been using a hand signal language called Thieves' Cant, and is trying to communicate with this stranger, this person pulled out of this necrotic shadow, the best way I could put it, and is trying to communicate some things to him. And one of the last things we did is he walked up to his shoulder and whispered some acknowledging words to you when you were doing this secretly, Danny. And he would Thieves' Cant back to you. I am searching. I am searching. That's all he would say to you, and give you a very distant, well, actually not really distant, a very humble stare with a slow nod of acknowledgement to you. This sounds familiar.
He says,
are you talking or Thieves' Canting still?
He's actually talking now. He says, I'd bet you're hungry. And I'd say the rest of us probably use something too. I don't know crap about. She does know a little bit about a ship because he stowed away on one as a kid. But
yes, he did. Yes,
he says, I don't know much about airships, but I think if we get Dre and maybe head downstairs, we might be able to scrap something together that these guys could stomach, and maybe yourself as well.
He looks at you and he goes to pat you on the shoulder, but he doesn't. He kind of recoils his hand back and looks at it for a minute and holds it back down his side nervously and nods to you and he goes, food would be fantastic. And he curtsies for you to lead the way.
As a sign of trust, I actually turn my back as I step away from him, like just turn on my heel and walk, as if it's not a big deal. And
as he walks, he looks over to Sylowen and says, well, a shirt and a meal. Not a bad way to come from the shadows, is it? And awkwardly nods and begins to walk that direction into the lower cabins. Sean, talk to me about what Shadae is up to.
Okay, so Shadae right now is going over the scrolls that she had taken many years ago.
Yes.
It always kept hidden. She's meditating, realigning her chi, her ki, and during the process she pulls out one of her knives, one of her kunai, and then she swears an oath to never use the shadows again. And she's, and she kind of like, kind of cuts her hand as part of that kind of and as she realigns her chi, she kind of looks at it, and then the wound heals itself, but then kind of scars over.
Okay.
So using one of her new techniques.
In that moment, when you first pierce the blade into your skin, you have a flash into your mind, a picture. Okay? As you can hear the loud caw of Isadora echo inside your ears to a alarming degree, almost it just happened to you.
Yeah.
And as that moment just flashes past you for just a moment, you can't be quite certain what you saw. But you saw a flash image of the exact same thing that I described the Dahan up on the ship. That large looming shadow soaring beneath veiled clouds in the midst of a thunderstorm up ahead. But you see it much more closely and much more detailed than Danny's character did, simply because of the Raven's sight. What is your reaction to this? You can tell me either your mindset or physically what you're doing. You know this is part of what you're here for,
right?
But this is a very abrupt reminder.
Seeing this flash before just further steals Shade's mind. Well, no longer Shadae, as she drops her dark hair. Her hair is that pale golden white again.
Yes.
Her eyes are in her golden, and her skin is pale, but to the point where the raven mask that she puts on kind of extremely contrasts it with her white hair. Okay. And she takes out two raven, as she forms her hair into kind of like a bun. And she takes two raven feathers into it.
Nice.
And she now goes by the name Celine.
Okay. So you guys need to write that down. But the thing is, that may need to be explained to everybody because they're not going to know this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Selene?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me write this down. Just a minute. Shadae becomes S-E-L-E-N-E. And you still have the Kate Blanchett look to your facial features? Or are you still kind of like a blank slate with just the raven mask over the one side?
Yeah.
So showing much more of your true form as far as a changeling than before. This is interesting. The group understands to a degree what you are. They've just never seen you truly do it. Only Oma really has studied you and knows truly what you look like. And in that moment that you're having this realization, you're realizing just in a moment that Oma is in there possibly fighting for her life, just a few rooms over from where you might be. Just a side note.
Yeah.
From that, you would, there would be portals and windows and things, and you would start to see white water and rocks jutting out of the ocean as you are getting ready to come into some form of land. You can actually tell from the way the water beats on the side of the ship that you are nearing the destination or the shores of the Crescent Cradle.
Yeah. If you're going to allow it within this time for Celine to fully realize the new tradition, once she's done, she's going to go to wherever Aeolus took Oma.
Absolutely. We'll go ahead and do that. As you leave your room, do you put your scrolls back in this hidden area, or do you keep them on your person?
Okay. I put them in with the rest of my stuff.
Okay, just for the hell of it, roll a performance check. I like to see how well hid they are.
I'm going to use my 1 point of inspiration for that.
I would. With advantage, then.
Performance. So that is actually a natural 19 for a total of 22.
It is very well hidden. If you didn't know as you do this and you look at the room, you're like, Aeolus will never find this. You feel confident. And you know he's a cunning individual. But you know you've hid this well. Keep that in mind, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, make a note of it or something of that nature. Okay, so as you leave the room and you head down the hallway, you can pick up on the distinct sounds of spell weaving and celestial like voices whispering from the rooms on down past here. As you see different soft candle-like radiant glows flicker against the hallway as the doors open. You know this is the main room that Aeolus usually uses as his personal quarters. This is beyond the bar and things like that he has here is the game room that we've all hung out in before. This is his own personal room. Would you want to make your way in there to witness what's going on?
Yes.
Okay.
And to help out with the new skills that I've learned.
Outstanding. So, as this happens, you poke your head in through the room, and as Aeolus is looking down to her and brushing the hair from her forehead, and won't take his eyes off of her, and looks as solemn as he has ever, because Aeolus is a showman. He looks as solemn as ever. He goes, surely there's something more we could do here. He says, I know, but cost is not an issue. Whatever components you may need or possess, or whatever to that extent, there is no limit on the prices and how far I will go to remedy this. He says, now you've been a guest on my ship, and now it is time for you to earn your keep, Tamara.
I walk up to Tamara. I walk up to Tamara at that one, and I put a hand on her shoulder. And I tell her, let me aid you with this.
So your voice even changes a little bit?
Yeah.
Interesting. As that happens, she looks at you for just a moment. I'm going to roll a check for her. As you see her eyes kind of glassed over, as if she seems like it's beyond what she can do. But you know, Tamara has a fiery spirit. She's a badass. But she is disappointed in herself right now. Aeolus seems desperate. Okay? I want you to roll a perception check, because you were one with the shadows for a while, and now you are part of something else, Sean. I'm curious if you notice something.
Perception. That is a 19 total.
Okay. Tamara looks into your eyes deeply and nods with bewilderment as she looks at you, and she looks at you fearfully, and you remember at that moment that she similarly had a mask on that controlled her not so long ago. And this is a harsh reminder of that, but she sees past that, and she sees into you. And she goes, Shadae, what have you done?
It's Celine now. And don't worry, the mask isn't what you think.
Okay.
Let's work together on this.
Okay. So, is there, as you roll that perception check, you seem to notice that lingering in the shadows in the background seems to be the large form of some hulking humanoid. It seems to be lumbering around in the background. You would have to believe that this is the spirit of Tomar that is lingering there, hoping to try to guide Oma, but seems to be somewhat lost and not completely here nor there. As he was not able to go back into her, to walk back into the spirit world once she summoned him, he is lumbering around and about. And when you look into the shadows and notice that look, you see a flicker of lightning-like energy. And you see a low nod, and as you see him walk over behind her, and he starts to become somewhat relevant to only you, Celine. And he places a hand on Oma's forehead. You see the typical puff of air come out from underneath of her white ice cat, or that frostworm cloak that she had made for her, and you can see the hair blow back a little bit as Aeolus's hand retreats quickly as he looks. And as she opens up her eyes, they are not the color that they were before. They have that bright, almost lightning-like element into the pupils. And as she opens up her mouth and looks over to you, Tomar's voice comes from her. I will try to help if I can. She is lost. I can't find her.
Well, let's show her the light. I reach out for Tamara's hand. And as I do, you can see kind of golden script start forming on my skin from one hand as I reach out for hers. And then the script follows along down my other hand as I place it on top of Oma.
Amazing. Good deal. As you do that, what is it you're trying to perform here exactly, Celine?
I am spending as many, I'm spending a key point to use my hand of healing.
Okay.
And is this condition, is it any kind of like of the conditions that is this a disease, or is it one of the conditions that I talked to you about?
It could be one of those conditions. This almost seems to be like some kind of heavy curse. Roll an Arcana check for me. With just a straight Arcana check, and I'll see if you have any kind of knowledge as to what this might be. This is something that was used on the Dreadnought at some point. There's a chance you might know this.
I rolled really high, so that's great.
Fuck yeah, you did. You
with my natural intelligence, actually rolled a 22.
This almost seems like this is some kind of primitive feral version of a force cage spell.
Okay.
Like she is trapped somewhere outside of this, and the longer she's away from herself, the further she gets. This is a tough one. And you're more than welcome to bring up that spell and look at it and see if you can figure out what might be able to alleviate that from this point.
Okay.
Okay. I'll give you a minute to do that while I talk about the ship on top, okay? I'll give you a moment to kind of process this. Sound good, buddy?
Yeah.
Okay. As they're doing that, Dahan, you feel comfortable enough now as at the very last moment you see the sails die down and you can see Medelia clutch onto the side of the wheel and kind of holds onto your arm, Dahan. She goes, well, that's it. It's spent. And we're very lucky to have made it this far. I will begin to try to summon up the spirits, but I will need time. Dahan, can you give me that?
I'll get you time.
Okay. She looks at you and gives you a nod, and puts her hand on your shoulder lovingly, and turns and walks away and starts automatically looking. You know, she always carries a bag full of scrolls and books on her, and she begins researching automatically. She is a bookworm. She is Hermione. Okay? And she begins to look through and start taking things of that nature. And when she takes the lodestar with her, the rune on the deck that it floats within dissipates. Zoom. Because that's the sound when a rune dissipates. Zoom. So there you go. It's the best I got. With that, you are left to this thing. The anchors are down. You are 100 yards out from the black sand shores of this thing, and the sun is setting. The light is getting lower and lower as it goes. What is it Dahan's doing?
He's having the crew prep everything that'll shoot up in the air.
Nice. Ballistas and things of that nature. I like it. Now, how much attention would you like to draw to the ship? As that happens, Valdera comes over to you, and she's taking out a map. And she lays it down on the counter space over there along, let's say there's a stack of crates or something close to on the side, maybe a barrel of that blast powder. And she lays that down. By the way, Rachel, Valdera is a character that I run. Valdera is a very awesome warrior, like two-handed great sword wielding, almost like a mystic kind of warrior. She has shaved heads on the shaved on the side with her hair flipping to one side. She has a kind of sharp, dark eyebrow look to her. If I had to pick an actress that would play her, it would be the girl that was in The Mandalorian.
Ina Carano.
Yes, the chick. I see that being Valdera. Okay. She extraordinarily tough and fights demons a lot. You've seen her do some things with her blade that hinge on dark powers. But she also has a toughness and a light to her as well. She wears a armor called the Chimera's Mantle, or Chimera's Mantle, that looks like a large lion-like head on one shoulder and has the fur of a chimera that's been slain, with scales and horns that adorn it and stuff, almost like a Viking fighter type looking badass chick. She carries a large sword she calls Wrathhaven that seems to have archaic runes that goes down through the middle of the blade. It is ridiculously big. She wields it very well. She is one of two people, her and Tamara, the paladin we keep referencing. Those two are the main employees of the Heart of the Beast. We are on this mission because we are friends with them and we asked to go along. They were the main ones to do this. Now Valdera, as Sylowen would know, not just tough and has that kind of big sister kind of thing, where if you want to ask her that, you'd get the gruff truth of it. But she has really taken this mission under her wing and has tried to stop being such a burden on the people of the Heart of the Beast and being something that holds them back. She really wants to take charge of this. And she goes over to Dahan's character and lays out this map and starts talking about things. That's what you see going on from the side. Okay, Dahan, she mentions that the island that we're getting ready to land on here, well, I guess we're rowing boats to it now. I don't have great experiences in the water. You should know that. And you remember a brief story Bastille told you about one time where he damn near lost her. She damn near drowned.
Actually, we left the ship that they were piloted.
Yeah. She says, but regardless of that, we are this being the first island here, and you couldn't have picked a better one. Not that you had any choice, but this is the island of Tenocia. If I'm not mistaken, these aren't the people that gave us the contract. These are hunter warriors called the Atlati. Atlati. And it has a symbol on there that shows a heart held in the clawed, taloned hand of a rock. And it's called, and that Atlati translates into Heart of Talons. Okay? Right. These are warriors and stuff that try to keep these beasts at bay. Although I don't see any of them now, I don't know how they'll take to us. If I'm reading this right, these may be people that worship the bird as a god. We need to be careful what we say if we're to encounter them.
I think I've seen it.
She looks at you and she says, seen what?
The bird.
Insight check. $18. Do you look over in the distance that you saw it from when you say that?
Yeah.
She looks over there, and in like a theater moment, she looks back towards you slowly, and she goes, from that far away.
Huge. And with that, he says, Dauntus, everything skyward, big guns.
She sees you say that, and she kind of takes a deep breath and kind of looks around, feeling unsafe. And Valdera doesn't do that very often. Brahmus, to get you included, now that we are there and you've done pretty well with the ropes and things like that, and helping throw some of the anchors over the side, I would say, as you would. what is it that you would be doing? I'll give you a chance, and then I'm going to give you some options. Is there something particular you would like to do now that we've landed? You know, you have Sylowen there. You have this person awake and doing some things. You have Oma down below decks with Tamara. You know, Shadae went down below, and you haven't seen her since we've landed. What is it
Brian,
you
check
would
your
like
messages.
Absolutely. Shut up, Brian. Look at your message. Oh, shit, people. Okay. Oh, look, it's a new message. Okay. Jeremy, what would you like to do?
Given having to somewhat crash land into the ocean, is there anybody around that looks like they've got kind of beat up from that? And is there anybody who, in particular, pretty beat up from the perytons?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry, you were kind of cutting out a little bit, boss.
Is there anybody on the ship that looks pretty beat up, albeit from the perytons or the landing? If there's anybody who seems like they've kind of been rocked, he'd be helping them out.
Bastille looks a little rough.
He always
And
looks like shit.
Sylowen looks a little bit rough too because of the shit that she went through. They
That's
were.
what
Go ahead.
he'll spend his time trying to tend to them, using some of his lay on hands pool if necessary.
Okay, do me a favor. Roll a persuasion check with disadvantage, Jeremy.
$16.
Okay, Sylowen. As Jeremy comes over towards you, you are getting to the point now where we're landing. And you, although you do respect Brahmus and Mirk, the one inside of him, quite a bit, if you have pride moments every once in a while that will come over you. Whereas like you are trying to do things on your own. And as you're over there and you're fixing this crude version of this wyvern armor that you wear, and I wanted to mention to you too, that headpiece that you wear is somewhat fashioned after the one that wyvern cultist leader had. You are empowering yourself with that. You are turning it into your weapon. As he comes up to you, Brahmas have the conversation that you're wanting to heal her, and I would like for you to be a little bit offstandish about this, Rachel, because you've been pampered plenty. Okay?
Okay.
And he rolled a 16 persuasion check, so what is the counter roll to that, Jeremy? A persuasion check of her own to see if she's drinking the Kool-Aid or not? Like for there to be a little conversation happen here.
So, do you want me to roll persuasion against his persuasion?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get to that.
We have dueling banjos and we have dueling persuasion. It's all good. Cue the West Virginia jokes. I know.
Roll the 13, so I don't think
I got you, Sean. What is it, Jeremy? What'd you say?
Just playing the banjo. Ding, 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 ding,
Okay,
ding, ding,
good
ding, ding.
God. Your fingers are too big. You can't do it. So, as this happens, go ahead and have the conversation. So what is it you rolled, Rachel?
I rolled a 13.
Okay, so he's going to get the upper hand on you on this, so act tough, but you'll have to give in. So go ahead, Jeremy, and walk up to her, and you see she looks pretty messed up and still tore up quite a bit from her dealings with those wraiths from earlier.
How are you holding up, Sylowen?
Wait, what do you say?
How are you holding up, Sylowen?
I look at Brahmus and I'm like, I'm doing fine. Just a little bit shaken up, but I'm fine. And I say this like as I'm putting my foot down, I'm like, I'm not joking around when I say this. I'm fine.
Okay. She's fine. Okay, what are you doing?
I think Brahmus has been around her enough to know that her aggressive "I'm fine" is total BS.
More than likely.
But I'm gonna go ahead and try to roll insight on it. Why not?
Go ahead.
That's a 21.
Full of shit is what she is.
And while she's looking down, he's going to put his hand on her shoulder and use 10 out of his healing pool
Okay, mark that down,
to
please.
kind of perk her up a little bit.
Sylowen, we're going to say at that you're going to be at 3/4 full hit points. So whatever math you want to do, just round it up, and that will be what you've got currently, okay?
Okay.
Because you took a pretty good whipping on that shit, but you kicked some ass too. You really did. If you need it, if you watch that last episode, there's some pretty cool moments in there. You did a good job.
Okay.
So with that, he heals you. You stubbornly take it because he beat you on that check. At this point, I want to go ahead and finish a little bit of this scene with Shadae, so I can get them to come out back onto the ship, and Aeolus can start talking about what the next move is. So we're going to go back to Sean.
I'll say in the background, he's going to give Bash 20.
Okay, go ahead, Bass. What you got to say about that, buddy?
Thank you.
That'll work. Hey,
Mutual
tax,
brotherhood. That's all it needs.
right on. All right, so we got a dancer in the background, Jeremy. That's good shit. Your son's back there doing like the chicken dance or something. It's good stuff. So with that, Sean, you were doing this thing here that you were mentioning to me, right?
Yes.
What kind
I'd like
of
to actually roleplay that out, actually.
You would like to?
Roleplay that out, yes.
So, as you are joined in hands with Tamara, you hear words on the wind in this room, and it sounds like a powerful female voice chanting ever so slightly through the ears. Now, you don't recognize this voice exactly, but as you're hearing it, you're seeing Tamara's eyes close, and her hair seems to lighten to a degree. She takes a deep breath, and she looks strong. And she starts moving her mouth along with the words that you can hear. It's almost like this ancient Nordic kind of words on the wind. And she seems to be reciting the words that are coming from a far off place. Okay? She is trying to do a restoration spell, and she'll have the addition of you. Tell me what it is that Celine is doing in this moment.
Celine reaches out both of her hands, one to Tamara and lays the other one on Oma. As she closes her eyes in meditation, she begins to speak.
Okay.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from the heaven on the place beneath. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. Blessed him that give and him that takes. Elea, goddess of mercy, in exchange for my devotion to your ways, I ask that you show mercy and spare the life of this one.
Roll a check that you seem fit, either persuasion or charisma. What would you like to roll?
She's gonna. I think this would be a. This would be a religion check. This would be a religion check.
And I will let you add a +1 for each key point you would like to expend on this.
I will expend. I will expend all 6 of my remaining key points.
I will do this for flavor.
Yeah.
So go ahead, add 6 to this roll. And after this, you will be level 3 exhaustion.
That's fine. Oh, that one. Whoa. That is a. So I rolled a 15.
Okay.
But with all my bonuses, it brings it up to a 25.
That's excellent. I like when the dice work out for the good guys every once in a while. As you do that, a long moment passes. You almost feel on edge. You don't know if this was heard or not. You don't know if the selfless act and path that you've decided to take on has fell on deaf ears. And with using all of these key points in this one fantastic moment, and doing this with the roll of that, you would see Tomar appear back outside of her. And you would see her inhale an extraordinarily deep breath as just the tiniest bit of color begins to come back into her cheeks. The eyes are still closed, and Aeolus runs over to her side and falls to a knee, throwing his pistol, his arcane pistol, over to the side and touching her and cradling her face. He gets down and says, "Oma, wake up already. I don't know exactly what you're doing, but it seems to be working." Looks up to both of you and says, "The real Celine, I presume?" Okay, as you say yes, because you're muted.
Yes.
Okay. As that happens, color slowly starts to come back into her. At that moment, Medalia walks in from behind with the lodestar and rushes past you and Tamara and stands over to the foot of the bed by her side. And she looks over.
To interrupt for flavor, as color restores to Oma, my bright eyes, the brightness of my hair, the brightness of my skin, the runes that have appeared start to dull to almost like a gray, as I've expended all of my key energy.
Okay, roll a Constitution saving throw for me.
That is an 11.
Okay. Level 3 exhaustion until you've had a short rest. And with that, Isadora appears on your shoulder and picks and parts your hair and pecks at the corner of the mask and looks at and is making little squawking pleasantry sounds, knowing that you've become weakened to such a degree. As you let out this that you exhale and you stumble just a bit, Medalia comes over and holds your arm up and steadies you over to a chair. As you go into the corner, she goes, "Aeolus, we're getting ready to take ships, or at least coast in closer to the main lines, but we don't know. Valdera has mentioned that these waters could be treacherous. We don't know if we should pull along the beaches or remain anchored. We need your guidance." Aeolus says, "Right, still the job to do." He stands up and straightens himself and throws his hair back behind his head and looks at all of you as if he wasn't fazed by this. Jumps straight back into character. Okay? And says, "Well, best not to keep everybody waiting. There will be wine and things, and maybe even some things stronger for everyone involved in this on me." And he turns on his heel and walks out and he goes, "And Medalia, take your time with this. The ship has a lot of work that needs to be done on it. We shall get to that abruptly." And he walks out of the room up to the decks. Okay, so for now, Shade's in a chair, recuperating, sitting there beside Oma, wondering what she'll say now that she knows that you're taking on a version of your truer self, and what kind words she might have for you. As you remember, she always mentioned to you that she thought you were beautiful, that she saw something in you, and she's the only real person. You can just remember little still frames of those moments that she had of your character through all this. She didn't look at the decor and the darkness and everything else. She saw you for what you were, and you wish other people could do that. Okay? On that note, let's go ahead and go up with Aeolus on the deck of the ship as the sun is damn near completely behind the canopy of the trees, the large jungle-like area of the edge of Tellua. Dantus looks out onto the water and looks around. Caliban goes over to his side. Caliban, Rachel, is a large earth genasi monk that is tattooed and ruined with a shaved head that has a tattoo of a compass on his head. Very iron-jawed, large type character that seems to be a strength-based fighter. Very ancient stoic looking, almost like a Greek god type of style of wardrobe, as he wears like kind of a sash around the bottom and no shirt and wristbands and shit like that. Something you'd see right out of a history book. Okay? Dark complexion of skin, and you know that he can be quite sarcastic. He is very bullheaded, but is very capable fighter as well. Okay? He goes over to Dantus' side, which is the small red-haired dwarven character, and they start pointing, and you hear whispers about them looking at things in the distance in the waters and stuff like that. And he's looking through the eyeglass, and he's spying around, and he's handing stuff to blah, 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 Caliban beside him, and they are scanning out over top of this. I would like for Danny to roll a perception check, a 1d20 and a 1d6. And Jeremy, I would like you to roll a perception check, 1d20 and a 1d6. Danny, you are Dantus. And Jeremy, you are Caliban. Tell me what you guys get. 21 for Dantus.
14.
14. Caliban has a hard time working the device. It's something new to him. He does not see much of anything, but Dantus takes it down and looks at him almost as if he's seen a ghost. And he goes over to Aeolus' side pretty quick. The two have a whispered word as he pulls on Aeolus' long captain's coat and pulls that aside and whispers some words to him and points and talks some things over. He very arrogantly, as the character that plays Lucifer would, smiles and nods and makes a very sarcastic look. He goes over and goes, "Attention! Attention, everyone." That's right. Eyes up here, please. Thank you. He's getting everyone's attention on the top of the ship. He goes, "So, yet another successful landing, although it be a little bit wet for my taste. You are here, and thus part of my responsibility is completed. So do not think that you're completely alone. Of course, we will have food and we will have drink, as it is getting dark, and I would hate to just put you into this hot and humid climate in search of creatures that could eat you whole. My suggestion, as I've been told by my third mate here," and Dantus kind of like sarcastically raises his finger, "is that there are creatures out here that could have ill will towards our ship. So we shall go in and beach this vessel for now to get out of these deep waters. We will need people to take first watch to watch the waters, and we will also need people to watch the top of the ship to make sure no locals come out and try to greet us without warning. So I'll let you all talk amongst yourselves and decide how to do this. And by morning, it will be time for you to depart my vessel, and I shall remain here until you have completed your task. Are there any questions from anyone?" And he's looking around at a bunch of people that just got a shitload of information really fast. Valdera looks over at Dayhon and says, "Works for me. I'm sick of the fucking water." And she just kind of walks off gruffly as she's rolling up her parchment and these maps that she's brought along her. She also has that one bone monster call that hangs around her neck that she was showing you guys in the shop when we were in town. You guys remember that? Thumbs up if you do. Okay. So with that, Tamara comes back above decks and goes over to Bastille, knowing that you've been messing around with new powers, and explains to you and Sylowen that Oma is in the process of coming back to us. that with Shadae's help, and Tamara says that with a strange restraint, we were able to revive her. With that, we are going to start making preparations to stay the night here, as Aeolus has already went under, and Dahan, you would start to guide the ship through regular sailing methods about the lodestar as you're raising anchors and moving on forward. I would like for you to roll a perception check, please.
16.
Okay. As you do this, you notice different movements in the water. Every once in a while, you may see a little bit of a spout blow up like a whale. You might see fins snake across the water every once in a while. Nothing is little here, though. And it makes you concerned about what kind of things are out in this deep of water. Which is why go ahead.
He takes a deep breath and he goes, I forgot about those. We're in the water.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, you can't help but have a memory. And in that moment when you're looking out there and you see these fins and you do this kind of thing, you remember a moment that you and Oma shared. What seems like forever ago. When you actually saw and had a moment with a water creature from your past that visited you as you were inside of the Colosseum. In that dreamlike state when she was taking you on a spirit walk with her. And you can't help but possibly feel close to that creature. Do you remember what the name of the creature was, Danny?
I have it written down somewhere.
That's okay. Well, when you do, if you ever come up with it, that is the creature that you think of. Okay? And you wonder if you would actually have a challenge waiting for you here somewhere. And if destiny has brought you to this spot. Okay? As the sun begins to go down, there was that small gnome-like character that always played, what was it? Was it a violin or what did he play, Danny? The one that was down there singing that song of Oma's people and stuff like that to her? He's one of the ship hands.
Yeah, and there's also I thought you were talking about the one I hired for the gun.
No, that's a different one. If Alex was here, she would know. But there's this little guy, and he goes around, and he is a gnome, swashbuckler, pirate kind of looking person, a little bit too young, with a little bit of a scraggly beard to be on this ship, and is going around and begins to play the violin and plays different kinds of tunes, talking about and singing about what just transpired with our fight with the peryton, almost turning this into a heroic ballad in the midst of it. And as he's doing that, you would notice out of the corner of your eye, Bastille, that this new character, the one ripped from this necrotic pool, seems to be humming along and moving his fingers with this. And he looks at his hand as if he's missing something. And he looks to it again. He begins to sing. Do you go up and approach him or anything of that nature? If not, that's
actually,
fine.
Does my backpack happen to be up on deck as well?
Absolutely. By the magic of D&D, lo and behold, there it is. I'm going to say it's wet, though.
Yeah, well...
we made a crash landing.
he pulls out the loot that Roland loaned him when he was learning back in his rogue days, learning at the scale.
Oh, you brilliant bastard. Go ahead. What are you going to do?
He pulls it out and he goes, a friend of mine gave me this. I managed to use it enough to take on an identity for a while, and he smiles. He says, see your fingers moving. Give it a shot.
And what is it you're handing him?
A loot.
As you do, he looks at it, and he holds it almost like a foreign object. And he kind of winces and kind of fakes a smile and goes, I can't quite... should this mean something to me? Exactly, I'm not following. And then he takes it and holds it for just a moment. He holds it up to his mouth, and he tilts his head sideways. And he looks at this thing.
Wait a minute, it's not a lute.
No, it's
a string that's... Huh?
It's a violin.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And he looks to use it, and he is able to somewhat carry the tune. He's able to follow the notes of what this gnome is performing as he walks along the ship, as anchors are rolling up and we're moving in closer to the Black Sands coastline. But it is not comfortable for him as he makes some mistakes and finds himself a long ways. And he looks to you, and he thieves cants to you, should this be familiar to me?
Maybe not this tune.
He looks into the distance. And he goes up and he marches over to the gnome playing the violin. And he whispers something into his ear. And the gnome just looks at him and kind of nods. And he hands it over to him. And he looks at it, and it looks like he's looking at a lost lover. The way he looks at this and holds this thing, almost like someone would a child. And as he takes it and puts his fingers to it, the natural charisma and the movements of him seem to be extraordinarily natural. Okay? And as he does, the long blouse shirt that Sylowen had gave him just a minute ago seems to flourish around the side as he, I'm trying to think of the word, dramatically the hair that is wet on his head seems to wipe around and slap out of his face as he kicks his hair back and looks almost sinisterly at this instrument as if he is getting intense and getting ready to perform something. And as he does, he begins to do these long, slow, drawn out violin things that sound beautifully painful. I can't think of any other way I would describe it. The long notes seem to reverberate from this instrument in a way that makes the gnome simply look awestruck. It's what's happening. You appreciate fine music, Bastille, and Brahmus, when you see this, and Sylowen, being a bard, you remember what it felt like to sing for the first time after you had lost your wing. And you were getting those same goosebumps at this moment. No shit. Natural 20. Natural 20. And I'm not even going to tell you how high that is for this individual. That's awesome. I love when the dice tell the story. When he begins to play this song, he sings something, Danny, that you can't help but smile and nod your head. You knew what this was going to be. You've heard this. You heard this on the rooftops. You heard Roland play this ballad to a long-lost friend in a ceremony held high up above the rooftops of New Gimdar as you were privately brought there by Dorbach to see the other true side of who Roland really was. And as he does this, he tells a story of a selfless person that went into the depths of hell to find someone that was lost there and forced the demons there to tell him the story of how to find this fallen hero. And the words he sings is, "Dread the passing of Drayden, for he shall not return." Or not Drayden, sorry, another D word. Darius. "Dread the passing of Darius, for he shall not return."
He says Darius's lament.
He continues to sing as if he doesn't hear you, almost possessed in a way. Everyone's attention goes to him as a 20 performed by this person on this ship puts everyone into a stupor. Brahmus, you've not heard anything quite so poetic and painful and beautiful since you can ever remember. And you have heard songs of the avians. You have seen and had memories of the triumphant horns that were ushering you back from victory at the foot of the Mountain of Tears. Nothing like that compares to this. And as he sings this, he says it one more time, but this time more painfully. And you can see pain on his face. Dread the passing of Darius, for he shall not return. He shall not return. And when he says it the last time, you can see his hand begins to clench up, and a string breaks. As he holds the violin out from himself, a small drop of blood comes from his fingers, and it falls on the deck of the ship. Everyone's just kind of entranced by this, and he takes it. He grabs his hand tightly, and he takes the sleeve of that shirt and wraps it around his hand, and he quickly hands the violin back to the gnomish crew member as he walks away and walks towards the back of the ship to get away from people with haste. As he walks away distraught, everyone is just left standing there, and you don't know what he just went through, but it was brilliant. Reactions. Brahmus, what are you saying? I will say that you three, just for the sake of argument, are somewhat close together. If you just helped raise anchors and we're moving in no more than 50 yards away from the Black Sands shore of Talua. We'll open up the stuff with you, Bastille. What do you say about this?
Heard that song.
Sylowen, you find that very strange.
Possible.
What's that, Danny?
Wouldn't have thought that someone else knowing it would have been possible, because only the
Sylowen, do you have anything to say to Bastille in this moment?
So you said that Sylowen finding Bass knowing that song was strange?
Yes, that's what he is saying. That's what Bastille is saying to the both of you.
Okay. Well, I thought that song was beautiful, and there's a little bit of a tear in my eye, so I try to wipe it off quickly.
Nice.
I look at Bass, I'm like, what do you mean? Why would it be strange that he knows that song?
Because the writer is dead, and the only person it was taught to played it once on a rooftop.
Mirk, you got anything?
He stood there kind of awestruck, and he's looking off in the direction that he took off.
Yeah.
And then he turns to Bass. And boss knows no bounds.
Nice. Okay. So, what we'll do is, if you want to, if you guys want to go a little bit further, we can. But I'm happy with concluding our night that we actually dock and make our way into the Black Sands and leave the boat there for the night. And then when we start, we will do the overnight stay. We will go down into Aeolus's quarters, have a drink, bullshit, try to relax and be thankful that we made it here in one piece. Decide how we're splitting the party up, who stay behind to work on the ship and safeguard it, and who is going to take off into the ancient lands of Talua in search of some way to get to the place we need to be. Valdera has the map. We didn't make it in as far as we wanted to. There's still a ways to go. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, awesome. Had a really good time with this one, guys. Once again, I'll pause this recording, and then we'll have a little bullshit session afterwards, talk about things, maybe some insight for the next time we game, and we'll call it a night. Once again, Brian Kynes, thanks a whole lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and hopefully we'll see you next Sunday. Take care, everyone.